My favorite cigar size to smoke personally is actually kind of a funky size. It's not a traditional size. When I got back into the business after having been away from CAO cigars and building that up, and now we started our own brand with OZ Family Cigars, which is part of the Crowned Heads family. The guys at Crowned Heads are like, okay, what sizes do you want when you're starting a new brand? You know, and I said to them and the sales guys, look, you tell me in the market what's in demand right now. There's only one size that I want personally, and that's 5.5 by 55. Now, why that size? When we had CAO and Brasilia, we had a few different sizes that we did. We had a 56, we had a 52, we had a 60, but then we kind of played around with it and did like a 55 ring gauge and 5.5. I used to play alto and tenor sax, and it kind of felt like to have it in my mouth was like having like a sax reed, and then when I like when you inhale it, the smoke and the flavor would it's like taking a butter knife and coating your palate. And I liked it because it hit all of my palate at one time. I got a great sense of the flavor and the cigar and the taste and the tobaccos. And so now in all of our lines in OFC, we have a 5.5 by 55. There's not a special name for it. You know, in Caratoba, we're calling it Robusto Extra. That's my favorite size. When I'm having a relaxing drink and a cigar, I mean, I tend to I live in Nashville, Tennessee. So we're in the middle of like whiskey country, not far from Kentucky. So I find that like bourbons specifically, I like a bourbon that might be like 110 proof, and I might add like 3 drops of water to it to open it up. But I like a whiskey that might be like 100 to 110 proof, and with a few drops of water, with a cigar, the sweetness of the bourbon and the whiskey kind of complements what you get from a cigar too. I also find actually that my wife loves ports, that ports really do well with cigars too. And sometimes you might taste elements that you wouldn't even come to your mind. Sometimes people say, I have a hard time tasting, chocolate or things like this with a cigar, and they become actually more to the forefront when you're pairing it with port. I think it depends on the blends and the tobaccos that are in them. I mean, certainly you want to have high quality tobaccos that are in there that can age, and also darker tobaccos, those that are from like the higher portions of the plant, more like Ligero Visos. If they're darker, they can age better. There's some cigars that are in my father's humidor, so he has some cigars that are like, over 20 years old in there, 25 years old. So there's some that have like, Connecticut wrapper on them, like, Connecticut Ecuador, and the fillers are like milder, let's say milder from Jalapa and Nicaragua, more Secos, Visos. And those are a little bit, when you smoke them now, they're a bit thin, meaning that there's not much kind of backing it. But if you smoke one, we have one that has Connecticut broadleaf Maduro wrapper, has Brazilian Arapiraca binder, and the filler also has Maduro, and it has like, thicker kind of, leaves from like Nicaragua, Dominican, even like Italy, for God's sake. And you smoke those and they still smoke really well. It's interesting to look at the texture and the color of the ash, a bit more bluish. And you could tell there's more minerality in it. But from a flavor standpoint, that tastes much better and it holds up pretty well. You just need to maintain it at the right temperature and humidity. It kind of depends. I look at making a new blend. I think the consumer thinks and assumes when you're making a new blend, you got to smoke like a ton of them, but I kind of view it as like when I met my wife, or maybe when you met your wife, when you try and you've dated around to different women, and you just somehow, it didn't click and the chemistry didn't click. But I feel like with cigars, sometimes it might be right away. And oftentimes it might take a long time. So I think it's a mixed bag, but when you smoke as many cigars as I do, or as you have, David, that you get a palate, you have a baseline, and you can tell right away. That's why I feel like the first quarter of a cigar, critical. Because now people are running around on their phones, they're swiping. You gotta grab people right away. So you gotta know, and you gotta know quicker if it's good or not. So it is a variable answer. And like, for example, with Caratoba, it was pretty quick. It was the first kind of it was the first sample, and we kept coming back to it. My favorite place to smoke a cigar is with other people, no matter where it is. I find that like cigars bring the temperature down. My father used to say, you know, the cigars is like a meditation. You are inhaling, slowing your breath, exhaling. And so I think that it's like a meditative. People relax. The smell is, you know, a beautiful smell, obviously. So I think cigars are the best way of communicating in a calm manner while being alert and attentive with people. And also you're not getting intoxicated when you're doing it too. So I always find that no matter where I am, if I'm with other people and talking with them, it's a real opportunity for me to connect with them over a cigar, no matter where it is. A cigar lounge usually. Well, it feels great to be back in the cigar business. I mean, there are a lot of things that have changed about being in the cigar business, than before. But I feel like I missed cigars and I loved cigars. And what I had found is that we had previously had a great story where we built this family brand from literally the basement of our home in a really humble home in Nashville, Tennessee, literally shipping things out of the garage of our basement. We started with pipes and then humidors and then cigars, and then kind of growing the business slowly but methodically. And, you know, I worked in it with my father and my sister, which, you know, we had a lot of wonderful memories, wonderful times, wonderful relationships and connections that we built internationally with different people. And then when I was away from the business, I feel like that kind of story had started to kind of go away, or that legacy was leaving. And then at the same time, I love things that have to do with the art of taste. So I love different combinations of food or wine or whiskey, and cigars fall in that category. And I had a lot of friends in Nashville that told me, well, you know, you built a successful cigar business, why don't you get into Tennessee whiskey? But, you know, I always felt like easier said than done, number one. Number two, I'd spent a majority of my life in the cigar business. It's what I know, it's what I feel comfortable with. And why get into a category that I don't know that has to do with a similar kind of sensation, which is taste and flavor? So for all those reasons, I wanted to get back into the cigar business. And fortunately, my colleagues from CAO, they had started a brand called Crowned Head Cigars, where, you know, they have a successful boutique brand that has, you know, that has a nice following for it. So to me, they kept saying, we're ready, we're here whenever you want to come back. And then something clicked, and my father passed away in 2018. And I just felt like I had such great memories of working with him in this beautiful product, and had such great shared times and memories that, you know, why not do it again? I have two sons that also love cigars. So I felt like for all of those reasons that you know, kind of pulled me, like, you know, whenever I go out, they pull me back in, you know, so get back into the cigar business.